James Chapter 3. James 3:1. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. So, we should not of our own accord and too hastily try to teach others what we believe to be true. The appointment of a spiritual teacher goes to those who are fit for such a position and are able to govern their tongues and their lives with dignity and contempt of everything that dishonors character. James 3:2. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body. There is no man who is absolutely free of sin. Therefore, we must not be too critical of the actions of others, having so many failings ourselves. Proverbs 20:9. Who can say, I have made my heart pure, I am clean from my sin? Ecclesiastes 7:20. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. 1 John 1:8. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. However, the man who is appointed by God to be a teacher of his children is one able to bridle or control his tongue, giving none offense by it, and is accounted to be a wise man, prudent and understanding, able to teach the whole body of believers, able to guide those children of God into the promised land. James 3:3-4. Behold, we put bits in horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships. Although they are so large, and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder, wherever the pilot desires. So here we have the apostle expressing how small, yet significant, the member of the body is that can direct the movement of the whole body with very little effort. Therefore, we can understand why it is so important that not many of us become teachers, and those who do it only by appointment from God, and they practice self-control, especially where the tongue is concerned. For he who controls his tongue controls the whole body. James 3:5-6. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire! And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. Someone who cannot control their tongue might himself take a vow of silence, thinking this to be controlling his tongue. But you don't solve the problem of an unruly horse by keeping it in the barn. nor the problem of a hard-to-steer ship by keeping it tied to the dock. That would be wasting a perfectly good resource that can be used to produce much fruit. The key to controlling the tongue is to change the heart, for out of the mouth spills the overflow of the heart. Matthew 15:18. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. Proverbs 26:18-19. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death, is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I am only joking. Matthew 15:19. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. James 3:7-10. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile, and creature of the sea, is tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessings and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Wild animals can be tamed more easily than the tongue of a man. In fact, James tells us that no man can tame the tongue. Man is capable of great self-control in many areas. There have been situations where men have become trapped by fallen trees and fallen rocks, and they were able to gather enough strength and self-control to cut off their own leg to get free, and in some cases even drive themselves to the hospital for medical treatment. Yet that same man cannot tame his tongue perfectly. Only God the Father has the power to tame the tongue of a man, and he does it from the heart, the bowels, the core of the man, by changing that hard-hearted, selfish man into a new man with more purity of heart, who is at peace with God and with man, gentle and willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. This man sows the fruit of righteousness by making peace. James 3:11, 1-12. James 3:11-12. Does a spring send forth fresh water, and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields both salt water and fresh. Matthew 7:15-20. Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruit you will know them. Now this does not mean that if we are not producing good fruit, that we are at risk of losing our salvation. If we are in Christ, if we are believers of Jesus, and we abide in him, then we are of the good vine, the good tree. If you are a good tree, then you hate the deeds of the flesh. You cannot bear it when bad fruit begins to pop up in you, and therefore God prunes those bad things, because he knows you are his son, or of his son, the good tree. But those who love their bad fruits and continue to nourish their bad behavior, they will be cut down and thrown into the fire, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. So James is basically saying to us that same thing that Paul was saying. For what I will to do, I do not do. But that which I will not to do, I do. O wretched man that I am. So again we see the flesh at war with the spirit. But again, if we hate the deeds of the bad fruit, we will not continue in them, that they produce bad fruit in us. Rather, we cry out to the Father, and he purges us of those bad fruits springing up in us. James 3:13 through 16. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. So who is wise? The man who is honest with himself and understands who he is, without the Spirit of God dwelling in him. The person who seeks not their own wisdom, but rather the wisdom from above, to guide their conduct and their walk. For if you find yourself having envy and self-seeking in your heart, then beware. For every tree that produces the bad fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. James is constantly flipping the coin and showing us the good, the light, and the dark, the bad. From the fruit of the Spirit, then to the fruit of the selfish flesh. And whichever one we nourish and nurture determines if we are living for the Spirit, walking in good works that produce good fruit, or if we are walking in the flesh, producing bad fruit. Whatever we reap, whatever we love, we sow. If we feed the flesh, we will produce corruption. And if we feed the Spirit, we will produce everlasting life. James 3:17 through 18. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Therefore, the one who seeks God's wisdom and his righteousness will continually produce the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against these things there is no law.